In a world obsessed with image, performance, and pleasing the crowd, many rise in status only to collapse in spirit. They gain the world, yet cannot sleep with themselves. In this video, we uncover how you can climb the ladder of success without discarding your soul on the steps. In the theater of life, each man must wear a mask. He does not enter society barefaced, for society does not desire truth. It desires function, presentation, reliability. This mask, as Carl Jung called it, is the persona. It is the version of ourselves we display to gain acceptance, credibility, and survival in a world that rewards images over essence. The persona is not inherently false, it is a necessity. Just as a diplomat adopts a polished tongue or a soldier dons armor, the persona is a mechanism for maneuvering through complex social terrain. The danger lies not in wearing the mask, it lies in becoming it. In the pursuit of success, many grow so attached to their persona that they forget the self behind it. They begin to believe they are the role they play: the executive, the genius, the artist, the enlightened one. But these are merely costumes. The deeper self, the chaotic, contradictory, and often inconvenient truth of who they are, remains buried beneath performance. The man who loses touch with this self becomes a puppet of his environment, adapting to every demand until there is nothing left within him that cannot be shaped or sold. Society praises such adaptation. It calls it professionalism, likability, charisma. But Jung saw it for what it was: psychological death by 1,000 smiles. When you mistake the persona for your identity, you become a servant to the perceptions of others. You begin curating every action, every word, every belief not in alignment with your essence, but in alignment with what will be applauded. And applause is addictive. It gives the illusion of progress, of success, of worthiness. Yet it quietly erodes authenticity. The man who lives solely through his persona may rise in rank, but he will find himself increasingly hollow. Success will feel surreal, detached. Even moments of triumph will ring false because they were earned by a character, by the self. This dissonance is what Jung identified as neurosis, the psychological torment that arises when one's external life is completely divorced from one's internal truth. And the world, ever hungry for consistency, will demand that you double down on your persona. The more successful your mask becomes, the more perilous it is to remove it. The stakes rise. You now have a reputation, an image, a brand to uphold. People do not want yourself, they want your persona. And so you become trapped in the success you once pursued, unable to express doubt, darkness, or divergence. Your soul becomes a prisoner inside the temple you built to house your ambitions. To Jung, the solution was not to discard the persona. That is a romantic fantasy fit for isolation, not influence. Rather, he urged conscious control over it. You must know that the mask is a mask. You must be able to take it off in solitude, to return to the self in silence. You must remain vigilant that your values, desires, and sense of identity are not replaced by applause or approval. The persona must be your tool, not your tyrant. This is not easy. The world will reward the mask far more than it rewards the soul. You will be told that you are admirable when you behave predictably, when you fit expectations. If you challenge these illusions, you may be accused of arrogance, instability, or even betrayal. Those who wield their persona strategically, those who use it to navigate society without confusing it for who they are, possess a rare strength. They can operate in multiple worlds without being consumed by any of them. Most men choose comfort. They choose to forget the self and embrace the role, because roles are clean and applauded. But the man who remembers his self, while mastering his persona, moves through life with precision. He knows when to speak and when to remain silent, when to agree and when to withdraw, when to perform and when to retreat into authenticity. This dual awareness of the world's expectations and of his own inner voice is what makes him powerful. He is not seduced by identity, and therefore, he cannot be manipulated by it. Beneath the polished persona lies another figure, darker, unspoken, and far less welcome. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the totality of what the individual refuses to see in himself. It is every instinct society deems unworthy, every impulse you suppress to fit in, every emotion that does not match your self-image. And yet, it is not your enemy. In fact, to ignore it is to hand it power. Success without shadow integration is like building a kingdom with a sleeping serpent under the throne. It is only a matter of time before it strikes. The shadow is not simply bad behavior or immoral urges. It is the raw material of the psyche: ambition, lust, rage, envy, the hunger for power, the desire to dominate or deceive. These energies, if unacknowledged, rot and fester. Repression is not purification, it is distortion. The man who pretends to be purely virtuous is the most dangerous of all, for he believes his own lie. And because he cannot see the darkness within himself, he projects it outward, waging wars against others in a futile attempt to exorcise what lives inside him. The world loves to reward surface, level virtue. It favors the clean image, the restrained tone, the agreeable servant. But nature does not. Nature rewards those who are whole. And wholeness demands confrontation. It requires you to look inward, to examine your resentments, your secret hatreds, your fantasies of vengeance, your hunger for recognition. To integrate the shadow is not to act out every dark impulse. It is to become aware of them, to master them, to incorporate their power without surrendering to their chaos. This internal warfare is not poetic. It is brutal. It demands that you abandon the luxury of innocence. You cannot walk through this process and still think of yourself as a good person. You will begin to see how much of your life was motivated by fear, by vanity, by repressed desires disguised as noble goals. But in that discomfort lies power. Jung did not propose shadow work as a spiritual decoration. It was a psychological necessity. Without it, success is flimsy. It becomes a performance that can collapse under pressure because it lacks the weight of truth. Most people are not weak because they lack opportunity or intelligence. They are weak because they are fragmented. Half of their psyche has been exiled, kept in the basement of their mind, chained and unspoken. But what is exiled does not disappear, it sabotages. The repressed shadow emerges in subtle betrayals. The outburst that ruins a relationship, the addiction masked as ambition, the false humility that disguises thirst for power. A man who does not face his shadow will be ruled by it. It will choose his actions from behind the curtain. Those who integrate their shadow, however, become unpredictable in the best sense. They are not easily manipulated by guilt, shame, or social conditioning. They do not crumble when confronted with adversity because they have already wrestled with inner demons. Their strength is not polished. It is volcanic. It comes not from pretending to be above darkness, but from descending into it and returning with something intact. This is not romantic. It is violent self-honesty. It is choosing to become aware of the war within so no one else can weaponize it against you. The culture will tell you to be kind, to forgive, to let go, to suppress your anger. Anger has its purpose. So does ambition. So does pride. These are not poisons, they are tools. Tools that must be sharpened, not denied. Shadow contains everything you need to build psychological sovereignty, but it demands that you sacrifice your comfort. It demands that you stop pretending, stop moralizing, stop filtering your thoughts to appear agreeable. It asks you to become dangerous, not to harm, but to never be helpless again. No man can lead, achieve, or rule anything of value without first facing the chaos within himself. If you cannot confront your own darkness, you will project it onto others. You will attack those who mirror your repressed truths. You will sabotage opportunities that threaten to expose your inner conflict. And worst of all, you will remain trapped in a cycle of self-betrayal, mistaking politeness for virtue and repression for strength. Success, as it is commonly understood, is little more than obedience polished with praise. The world offers a clear path: conform, produce, align with the dominant values, and you will be rewarded. But Carl Jung saw something far more dangerous lurking beneath that path: spiritual inertia. The man who rises by imitation may win applause. He loses authorship over his own life. He becomes a replica of external ideals, a mirror for what others want to see, never a true being. Individuation, the central process in Jung's psychological theory, is the ruthless, lifelong commitment to becoming oneself. Not what the tribe demands, not what the world flatters, but what the psyche commands in its deepest form. Individuation is not self-improvement. It is not a list of habits, affirmations, or career goals. It is confrontation. It is the ego bowing before something greater than itself. The self, the totality of one's inner world, including not only what is light and admirable, but what is dark, ancient, instinctual, and unrefined. It is the unification of opposites within the individual intellect and instinct, love and power, reason and madness. And this unification does not happen in comfort. It occurs through friction, collapse, and rebirth. The man who individuates does not seek to belong, he seeks to emerge. He understands that success gained by becoming what others want is not success. It is a prison with velvet walls. Most men trade their identity for acceptance. They silence their contradictions to appear consistent. They abandon what is emerging from within them to preserve the persona they believe will be rewarded. They think they are making progress, but they are only deepening their dependency. The applause of others becomes their moral compass, their internal authority replaced by external affirmation. To individuate is to destroy that dependence. It is to walk away from inherited values and question the traditions you were told to uphold. It is to face the terrifying question, what if everything I was told to admire is not what I am meant to become? That question is dangerous because it forces you into exile, first from the world and then from your previous self. But that exile is where real power is born. In the silence of that inner wilderness, a man begins to hear the voice of the self by expectations or conditioning. This process often appears antisocial. The individuated man is not easily digestible. He does not fit categories. He is a mystery, even to those who once knew him well. That is the price of becoming something real. The herd may label him arrogant or unstable because he no longer plays the game by their rules. But this rejection is not failure, it is liberation. To be misunderstood by a system you no longer serve is not a curse, it is confirmation that you are no longer chained to its illusions. Individuation is the foundation of lasting power because it roots you in truth. When your values come from within, no public opinion can shake them. When your identity is shaped by inner necessity rather than outer validation, you become immovable. You are no longer at the mercy of trends, of political winds, of emotional manipulation. The world may tempt, threaten, or flatter you, but it cannot own you. That is what makes the individuated man dangerous. He cannot be bought, because he has already paid the full price of his own becoming. But this power comes at the cost of fragmentation. In the early stages, individuation does not bring peace. It brings conflict. You will feel divided, torn between what you were taught to be and what you are becoming. This inner war is essential. Without it, you are merely adapting, you are not transforming. Self must be earned through sacrifice. The sacrifice of certainty, belonging, simplicity. Only then does something unique begin to take shape, not crafted by society, not manufactured by mentors, but forged by the collision of your deepest instincts and your highest vision. Individuation does not promise comfort. It promises clarity. It strips away illusions, exposes contradictions, and demands that you stand alone without flinching. The individuated man does not ask, "Will this make me successful?" He asks, "Is this true to what I am becoming?" That distinction is what separates the sovereign from the servant, the original from the copy. The world will always reward those who conform, but it will only remember those who became. The modern world is not ruled by violence. It is ruled by influence. Power no longer shows itself in brute force, but in the subtle art of shaping minds, steering perceptions, and seducing individuals into compliance. Success in such a world demands the ability to adapt. But adaptation must not be confused with assimilation. To adapt is to bend strategically without breaking. To assimilate is to dissolve, to disappear into the collective until one's original shape is no longer distinguishable. Carl Jung understood this danger deeply. He warned that the more one conforms outwardly, the more one risks annihilation inwardly. The individual becomes a mask worn by the crowd. Every system, be it a corporation, a government, or a cultural movement, demands a degree of loyalty. It sets expectations, defines acceptable behavior, and rewards those who echo its values. But these rewards are traps in disguise. The more fluently you speak the language of the system, the more it owns you. You are praised for your compliance, promoted for your predictability, and celebrated as long as you remain within the boundaries that the structure permits. Once you begin to outgrow those boundaries, you will be labeled difficult, dangerous, disloyal. This is how the system polices identity, not through chains, but through comfort. The key to surviving and thriving within such environments is not defiance, but controlled adaptation. You must play the role without becoming it. Learn the rules not to worship them, but to use them. Let others believe you are one of them, while you remain utterly yourself beneath the surface. Jung did not advocate for rebellion without cause. He knew the cost of confronting the collective too directly. The wise individual operates like a double agent, present in the system, yet untouched by its hypnotism. This is not deception, it is survival with dignity. Assimilation begins quietly. It starts when you agree to silence your opinions to keep harmony. When you nod along with ideas that feel hollow, when you perform enthusiasm for goals you never chose. At first, it seems harmless, it's professional, but repetition turns strategy into identity. Before long, you no longer remember what you actually believe. You are surrounded by people who validate your mask, so you forget there is even a face beneath it. You do not become successful. You become a polished echo of what others need you to be. The man who adapts without assimilating practices what Jung might call internal separation. He divides his mind into layers. The outer layer interacts with the worldly. It negotiates, performs, aligns when necessary. The inner layer remains sovereign. It watches, assesses, and preserves the integrity of thought and desire. This is not emotional detachment. It is psychological discipline. It requires that you know exactly who you are, what you want, and what you will never trade, even if the price is high. The moment you forget that line, you are no longer adapting. You are dissolving. The world does not demand your soul all at once, in pieces. A small compromise here, a quiet betrayal there. Each one seems harmless, even smart. But together, they build a version of you that is optimized for acceptance and hollow at the core. You become efficient, successful, even admired. But you also become unrecognizable. You wear the clothes of power, but inside there is only exhaustion, confusion, and the slow terror of having no idea what you actually stand for. Jung believed that true psychological health required a confrontation with the collective. Not a rejection of it, but a resistance to being consumed by it. The collective mind is always more primitive, more reactive, and more prone to illusion than the individual mind. To maintain your individuality in the face of this pressure is to act from strength, not rebellion. It is to be present in the world, but not of it. To move among institutions, trends, and ideologies while remaining rooted in something deeper than any of them. There are moments when silence is strategy, when conformity is necessary to survive or gather strength. But if you do not know your limit, if you do not hold a clear, internal boundary of identity, you will not know when you've gone too far. The most dangerous form of surrender is the one disguised as success. The man who does not adapt is cast out, but the man who fully assimilates is erased. He becomes successful in the eyes of others, but alien to himself. And the tragedy is that no one will mourn his disappearance, because even he will not notice when it happens. In a world that endlessly rewards appearances, performance, and obedience, the man who seeks to succeed without losing himself walks a narrow, often brutal path. It is a path that demands psychological warfare, not against others, but within. To move through society without becoming its servant, to gain power without surrendering identity, to play roles without forgetting the actor behind them. This is the rarest form of strength. Jung did not promise comfort. He did not promise applause. He offered instead the truth that the greatest victory is not found in conquering the world, but in refusing to be conquered by it. You will be asked to wear masks, but never forget your face beneath them. You will be tempted to silence your shadow. Do not. Learn to speak with it so no one else speaks through it for you. The world will offer you 1,000 scripts to follow. Burn them. Write your own. Individuate. Stand alone if you must, for only in solitude can the self be heard. And when you return to the world, return not as a product of it, but as a force moving through it, untouched, unbroken, and utterly your own.